Hello friends, my name is Emile, and welcome back to some more Reach to Peak, the show where we take the cars of Horizon 3 and put them on the toughest challenge they can face, a tight, twisty hill climb course up high in Blizzard Mountain. Today we have 5 vehicles here for you as usual, and we're going to be kicking things off with a car that has a lot to prove up here. This is the 2012 Lamborghini Aventador, 700 horsepower, 509 foot-pound of torque, 3,472 pounds of weight. It is an S2 class car, 920 in PI. When equipped with these snow tyres, it is the most powerful vehicle here today, the torquiest vehicle here today, and the heaviest vehicle here today, and the highest in PI, so basically all of the things. So the Lamborghini Aventador, this is still one of my favourite supercars of all time. I know the Aventador gets a lot of stigma these days, you know, many famous people have them, many famous morons have them, but in my opinion, it still looks absolutely great. It was a really good follow-up to the Murcielago, and while personally I still can't decide which one's my favourite between the Aventador and the Murcielago LP640 in the quest to be my favourite Lamborghini, yeah, the Aventador is certainly up there. The reason it has a lot to prove up here is all-wheel drive Lamborghinis have done very well. Indeed, our top spots are owned by these four-wheel drive Lamborghinis. The Veneno holds first place, the Sesto Elemento holds second. The question is, will the Aventador be able to hold third place? Now, it is going to go up against the MG Metro 6R4 Horizon Edition, and on paper this car is very, very good indeed. In fact, this thing could probably own the top spot if it wanted to. Of course, it's slightly let down by the handling, which you'd expect to be worse than the Sesto Elemento and the Veneno, and indeed it kind of is. While this car has excellent dynamics, really very solid car set up for this, it does understeer more than the Sesto and the Veneno did, and it also has quite hardy suspension. Now, admittedly the Sesto and the Veneno both have that, but I believe this might actually be a little bit harder riding than the Veneno was. Maybe it's a little bit lower than that car is, possibly. But overall, the Aventador is a really good car despite the mild understeer. It did have a few problems through some of the corners where it did catch me out with just how much understeer it has. But it was still a very, very quick car, and of course we'll have to see at the end of the show whether it could live up to the hype. The next car that really doesn't have all that much to prove, actually, is the 2014 BMW M4, 431 horsepower, 405 foot-pound of torque, 3,389 pounds of weight. This is an S1 class car, 849 in PI when equipped with the snow tyres. Now, modern day BMWs really are not my thing. I don't particularly like any of them, save for the M2. I love the M2. But you know, most modern BMWs for me, particularly the sort of 3 Series and the 4 Series, really are just not my sort of cars. I've got to be honest, I know there's a lot of people who love the M4 out there, but I find it a little bit boring. I find BMW's modern day styling to be very, very similar, to the point where it's really dull. You know, they haven't really done anything stylistically sort of different since the E46. You know, basically every car since the E46 has looked pretty much the same. The interiors have looked exactly the same. You know, the interior game has been exactly the same since about 1999, and that's for all models, even the lovable M2. It is the same thing. But that being said, I've driven the M4 in Forza Motorsport 6. Really very, very good car in that game. Driven it in Horizon 3, not as good, but it's still pretty decent. As far as hill climbing goes though, this car does fall down slightly. It's alright. The problem is it has a tendency to get bogged very easily, and essentially it slides a lot. Now I'm going to attribute that basically down to the low weight of this car. It only weighs 3,300 pounds, and you've got to remember its rivals, you know, the C63 Black, the Lexus RCF, you know, they're weighing 500, 600, 700 pounds more than this thing is. And they have similar amounts of power. The problem is, because the BMW is so lightweight and has quite a lot of power, it sort of fidgets around on the course a lot, and as a result it can get bogged down because it's sort of constantly switching direction, moving around, because it's quite nimble compared to those cars. And I do think that's its downfall, you know. I do think if this thing weighed 300 pounds more, it would actually probably be a better handling car up here, to be perfectly honest with you. But as far as track use goes, the M4 is still a car that I'd recommend, and it definitely feels more at home on a track, and it's probably rightly so. A car which should be just as home on the snow as the track, however, is the 2015 Audi S1, 228 horsepower, 241 foot-pound of torque, £2,899 of weight. This is an A-Class car, 750 in PI when equipped with the snow tyres. Now, the Audi S1 is all-wheel drive. Basically, this is kind of a weird mishmash. It is the front end of an Audi A1 / Volkswagen Polo. It has the engine from a Golf R, which has been slightly detuned. And it has a completely unique all-wheel drive setup, I believe. Audi basically had to rework the entire underneath of this car to get it all-wheel drive, which means it was very expensive to them, and as a result, it's probably very expensive to the consumer. That being said, I do like the S1. I don't like the A1, the car this is based off. You know, the Audi A1 isn't. It's just not my sort of car. It's basically just a posh Volkswagen Polo, which I think looks much worse. However, the S1, with its sort of slightly more aggressive stance, and it is a slightly longer, I believe, than a standard A1. I think this is a better looking car than the standard A1, and you know, the sporty touches do help as well. It has 4 exhausts, which is quite amusing to me. Anyways, as far as this thing goes to drive, it's good. Honestly, when I was driving it, it feels like it could do with more power. This thing had like 50 or 60 more horsepower. I think we could be onto a seriously quick car up here. But as it stands right now, it is a good car if it does feel a little bit sluggish. It is a fair bit on the understeer side. Admittedly, it's not too much power to put through a front-wheel drive. Oh, sorry, an all-wheel drive car. You know, 228 horsepower. You can put that for a front-wheel drive car pretty easily. But you know, maybe it's something to do with the way the chassis is set up. Maybe it's something to do with the fact that the S1 is predominantly an front-wheel drive car, I believe, and then it sort of goes all-wheel drive cars when the wheels detect slip, which admittedly here should mean all-wheel drive is basically always on. I don't know how Forza computes that, or if it even bothers. So, you know, kind of like with the Ferrari FF, when you put that into 5th gear, it's supposed to be rear-wheel drive only. I'm not quite sure if Forza computes that. But the S1's fine, and it certainly has a lot of potential. You could build this thing up to be a right little rally monster, and it would probably be pretty good at it. Next up, we go from a on-road rally car to a not that. This is the 1966 Chevrolet Nova, 350 horsepower, 360 foot-pound of torque, 3,146 pounds of weight. This is an A-Class car, 721 in PI when equipped with the snow tyres. Now, I've got to be perfectly honest, I have no idea what the Chevrolet Nova is. I've only known this car exists thanks to Forza Motorsport 4 and I believe Motorsport 6 came back in. But other than that, I'm not really fully aware of what this car is exactly. What I do know by looking at the statistics is it should be pretty decent. 3,146 pounds of weight really is not a lot for a muscle car, or indeed an American car at this area. You know, most of them were weighing upwards of almost 4,000 pounds. Yet this is more sort of like Dodge Dart Superstock territory on the weight. Granted, it is down on power, you know, 350 horsepower for 60 foot-pound of torque, compared to the other stuff Detroit was pushing out. Isn't really huge. But it is still a pretty decent amount of power. As far as this car goes, unfortunately, despite being lightweight, it essentially just drives like your typical muscle car affair. There's nothing too special about this one. It isn't a Dart Superstock or a sort of Superbird. As we discussed previously, you know, they're the cars that were sort of really, very, very good for this course. You know, they handled really well. Dealt well with their power. The Nova, for whatever reason, doesn't really particularly do that. It bogs, it slides. There's nothing that can really set it apart from your usual tyranny of muscle cars. I believe it was the GTO Judge we had out last time, and this and that drive nigh on identical, pretty much. You know, despite the fact those cars have wildly different stats and are from wildly different eras, they're both sort of generic-y, not particularly nice to drive muscle cars. But the Nova, it is cool. It comes in fantastic colours. I love this turquoise that's on this car. But really, I mean, it looks cool. I think it looks really very good, actually. It's one of the better looking American cars of this era. I much prefer this over, say, the Chevrolet Impala. But as far as driving goes, the Nova just isn't anything particularly special. Next up, from not particularly special to, well, really rather special, this is the madder than ever 1980 Subaru BRAT GL. 69 horsepower, 84 foot-pound of torque, 2,061 pounds of weight. This is a C-Class car, 512 in PI. When equipped with these snow tyres, it is the least powerful vehicle here today, the least torquey vehicle here today, the lightest vehicle here today, and the lowest in PI. The mighty Subaru BRAT. How I love thee so. So, a little bit of a history lesson for you. We have actually already done a Subaru BRAT. We had the Horizon Edition run up extremely early, and it did extremely well. I believe it sits very high up the leaderboard. I believe it's set like a 204 or something ridiculous like that, which is, you know, that is up there with sort of the four-wheel drive supercars and hypercars. You know, this thing is pretty insane. From stock, compared to everything else in Forza, it's not particularly insane on the sort of performance front. It does drive very much like most slow cars do. It kind of reminds me of the Land Rover Series 3. What other slow cars have we had? The Pacer, the Land Cruiser FJ40. This is probably very similar to that, you know, they're kind of similar statistically to each other, but you know, the BRAT isn't about the performance of it, it's about like just the general silliness of them of it. Yes, those are back seats in the back. That's how you avoid chicken tax, ladies and gentlemen. You basically claim, oh, there's seats in the back, therefore it's a saloon car and not a small pickup truck. Yeah, that was 1980s Subaru. I love the BRAT. I think it is an absolutely tremendous vehicle. It is basically Subaru weirdness at its sort of pinnacle, if you will. You know, granted, there's a lot of Subaru weirdness sort of today, and I should know, but the BRAT really is the personification of, or the carification of all of that weirdness. You know, the seats in the back, the fact that this is basically a station wagon with sort of the one half of it just sort of gutted out. It is a silly automobile, and I love it for that. You know, I would take the Subaru BRAT over a Land Cruiser or a Series 3 every day of the week. And the one thing this car definitely has in its favour compared to, say, a Land Cruiser or a Series 3 is there's a hell of a lot of potential in here. Of course, we've seen how good the Horizon Edition is, but if you're to tune this thing for yourself, you have a wide variety of options available for you. There's lots of engines you can swap into this. You can have turbo rallies, Subaru flat 4s, I believe there's even like Porsche flat 6s available for this car as well. You know, the world is your oyster with a Subaru BRAT. You can build this thing up to be sort of a nice little sort of C-Class, B-Class, good solid rally car. You can build it to be an A-Class, S1 class mentalist if you want. It really comes down to what you want. Anyways, on to the times today, and the Aventador unfortunately could not break third place. It goes into fourth with a 159.353. It's still enough to beat a Bugatti Veyron by 0.8 of a second, beats an Evo 6 upgrade hero by a full second. But yeah, it's just 0.4 seconds down on that Metro 6 R4, which I'm sure is a relief to some people, not a Lamborghini 123. Moving down the board some more, with the BMW M4 goes in 70th place with a 213.433, a little bit quicker than a GT350R, 0.2 seconds off of an R34 Skyline. Personally, I would much rather choose the GT350R over the M4. The M4 sort of just broke away with that time at the last minute. Moving down some more, the Audi S1 finds itself in 93rd place with 216.336, which is very good for a hot hatch, beats a Lotus 340R. It is 0.1 seconds off of a 2016 Civic Type R, which I believe is the fastest hot hatch, sort of front-wheel drive hot hatch we've ever had around here. So that's pretty good going from that car. Moving down some more, while it may not be in the top contingency of muscle cars, it still does pretty good. This Chevrolet Nova goes into 145th place with a 222.409, just about beats an Opel Manta, Ford Fiesta ST, Buick Regal, slightly off of a GT86 upgrade hero and a Caterham R500. Pretty good going from the Nova there. And finally today, while it may have been slow, it was still fun. The Subaru BRAT finds itself in 216th place with a 256.910. Beats the Land Cruiser by 0.1 of a second, which is pretty good. 5 seconds down on the Pacer, 6 down on the Ford F100. Wasn't expecting the BRAT to be fast, but, you know, it still did pretty decently for what it is. Anyways, friends, I want to thank you all very much for watching this episode of Reach the Peak, and until next time, a farewell.